A few weeks from now, I'll be 38 years old. And lately, I've been thinking a lot about beginnings, not the dramatic, movie worthy kind. I mean, the gentle beginnings, the ones that look like waking up in the morning, opening your Bible, making your bed, going for a workout, and deciding that today you're going to try again. Because for a very long time, I was afraid of starting over. I hated that phrase. Starting over sounded like failure, sounded like something that shouldn't be happening at my age. Sounded like proof that I had somehow fallen behind while everyone else had their lives figured out. You know how it is. You look around and it seems like everyone has their career sorted, their relationships sorted, their finances sorted, and their future sorted. And then there's you, standing at another crossroads again. For years, I was ashamed of that. Ashamed that my life did not follow a straight line. Same that I kept changing and I still hadn't figured everything out. But recently, something shifted. I realized that starting over isn't a sign that you have failed. Instead, it's a sign that you're growing. Because the truth is, human beings evolve, we change, we outgrow old dreams, we discover new parts of ourselves. And sometimes growth requires us to let go of old versions of ourselves so that the new ones can emerge. Starting over is a lot like shedding skin. It's uncomfortable, sometimes painful, and even confusing. But it's also beautiful because you're making room for something new. At 38, there's still so many things I haven't figured out, but that's okay. I'm learning to take life one day at a time. After all, I cannot fly into next week even if I wanted to. So today, I want to share a few ways I'll be starting over. And maybe if you're in a season of rebuilding or reinvention too, this video will remind you that you are not alone. First way I'm starting over is by staying true to myself. And honestly, this one has taken me almost my entire life. I grew up in Nigeria, and while there are many beautiful things about our culture, one thing I learned very early was that keeping the peace was often valued more than expressing yourself. Disagreeing with people could easily be interpreted as disrespect. And if you combine that with growing up in a Yoruba and deeply religious household, expressing disagreement could feel almost impossible. You learn very quickly to smile, to stay quiet, to swallow your opinions, to avoid conflict, even when something bothers you, even when you know you're right or you're hurting. So I carried that pattern into adulthood. I became so focused on keeping the peace that I lost touch with myself. I worried constantly about disappointing people, upsetting people, or being seen as difficult. And the truth is, when you've spent years being rewarded for people pleasing, it's hard to stop. It's hard to unlearn. It's hard to suddenly start asking yourself what you actually want. But one thing I've realized is this: if I want to live a happy and healthy life, I cannot spend all my energy managing other people's feelings while neglecting my own. Because the reality is that many of the people you're bending over backwards for are not carrying the same concern for you. That doesn't mean becoming selfish. It just means being more honest with yourself and respecting yourself enough to tell the truth. It means recognizing that disagreement is not disrespect and understanding that loving people should never require abandoning yourself. Second way I'm starting over is by choosing a path that feels true to me. If you followed my journey for a while, you probably know that I studied pharmacy and even went on to complete a master's degree. On paper, everything looked right. It was respectable, stable, and practical. The kind of career that African parents proudly talk about. But deep down, something always felt off. I felt like I was trying to squeeze myself into a space that didn't quite fit. And for years, I ignored that feeling because when everyone around you tells you that you're on the right path, it's easy to assume they are right. It's easy to believe that your discomfort is something you'll eventually get over. But after practicing for several years and experiencing an occupational hazard that forced me to reevaluate things, I had to confront a difficult truth. Pharmacy was not the path I wanted to continue. And let me tell you, walking away from something you've invested years into is terrifying, especially when well meaning people keep reminding you how stable it is, how practical, and how difficult it might be to start again. And so, for a long time, I allowed other people to decide what my future should look like. I listened to what people expected of me. I listened to what others thought was best. I listened to everyone except myself. Until one day I realized that I had spent so much time asking everyone else what I should do that I never stopped to ask myself what I actually wanted. Not my parents, or my siblings, or society, or friends. Me. What did I want? And that question changed everything because life is shorter than we think. And I'd rather live with the consequences of a decision I made for myself than spend the rest of my life living someone else's dream. At least if I choose my path, I own it. And if things go wrong, I know I was true to myself. Writing had always been there quietly in the background, almost like a nudging I kept ignoring because it didn't seem practical enough. But sometimes the things that refuse to leave us are worth paying attention to. The third way I'm starting over is by giving YouTube another chance. Honestly, this might be one of the most uncomfortable things on this list because for years I avoided YouTube. I told myself all the usual excuses. My life isn't interesting enough, I have nothing to say, nobody will watch, and besides, what exactly was I supposed to film? I didn't go out much, and I'm a private person. I'm an introvert, and if I'm being honest, writing has always been my preferred way of expressing myself. It's how I process life and it's how I yap. Not video, not cameras, not editing, everything that has to do with shooting a video. But lately, I've been learning something important. Growth rarely happens inside your comfort zone. Every meaningful opportunity I've had came from doing something that scared me, applying for things I thought I would not get, submitting work before I felt ready, taking chances when success wasn't guaranteed. And sometimes those risks, they paid off and they taught me something valuable. That when I commit myself to something, things happen, doors open, opportunities appear, and growth takes place. Even when the outcome isn't exactly what I hoped for, I become a better version of myself. So this time, I want to give YouTube my best shot. Not because I know where it will lead, but because I don't. And that's what makes it exciting. At 38, I'm tired of letting fear make decisions for me. If it works, wonderful. At least I'll know I tried, and I'd rather have a story than a regret. I spent enough years wondering what if. The final way I'm starting over is by learning to believe in myself. And this one feels deeply personal. Because growing up, I was incredibly shy. I often wish someone would speak up for me, or stand up for me, protect me, or validate me. I wanted someone else to be brave on my behalf. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that sometimes the person I've been waiting for is me. I have to be the one who stands up for myself. I have to be the one who believes in myself. I have to be the one who says, you deserve a chance, even when nobody else does, especially when nobody else does. And here's what I've learned: before other people can believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. And before other people can take a chance on you, you have to take a chance on yourself. You have to stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for certainty, stop waiting until you're completely ready. Because if you don't choose yourself, you spend your life desperately seeking validation from people who are barely willing to give you the minimum. And that's a painful way to live. So I'm learning to choose myself, not because I'm perfect or fearless, but because I am worthy of the same grace, patience, and belief that I so freely give to others. As I approach 38, I don't have everything figured out. I don't have all the answers. And honestly, I don't know exactly where this next chapter will lead me. Or maybe that's the point. Maybe life isn't about having everything figured out, but about having the courage to keep beginning again, to keep evolving, to keep choosing yourself, keep trusting God with the unfinished parts of your story. So I am no longer ashamed of starting over, because every version of my life that I have loved began with a beginning, and every beginning requires courage. So if you're in a season of rebuilding, reinventing, or simply trying again, I hope you know this. You are not behind. Starting over is not failure, it's proof that you are still growing. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is give yourself permission to begin again.